Hi people. I don't know, look at my chest. Okay, a story time. So when I was younger, like my chest gets like this, like it gets very blotchy. I'm not a natural redhead, but my mom is a natural redhead and so is her mom. And like, whoa, oh my god, my joint just flew out of my hand. Like when I'm feeling a lot, sometimes my chest gets really splotchy like this, you know. But when I was younger, like it used to happen like whenever my mom used to gaslight me all the fucking time. This was, oh my god, I can't even explain. Like, her and I are both Scorpio Mars. That's scary. Okay, when you and your mother are both Scorpio Mars, that is terrifying. And she is a Sagittarius Sun, Gemini Moon, so she is a lot more volatile than me. I'm an Aquarius Sun, Scorpio Moon, so like I'm just like, I mother her. And the story is all over the place because I just smoked half a joint, so I'm pretty high right now. But basically, I overheard a conversation between my mom and her mom the other day, and it just became evident to me that I am more of like an emotional mother than either of them have ever been. You know, like this has been shown to me a lot over the past few years. My nails are naked. I got new tips. I only had the coffin shape. I wanted to do pointy, but I'm gonna do coffin nails later after I tell you this story and before I pull tarot cards. Okay, so let me regroup and get my head together and figure out how I want to tell you what I'm trying to say. Okay, so my mom would gaslight me when I was younger because she just like, victim mindset runs heavy in both of my parents. Like that was very hard for me to unlearn, but I really had to unlearn that. And so like, for example, like my mom was just like obsessed with like keeping tabs on me. Like she made me share my location with her. And one day at school we had like an assembly and there was this person that came in and they did this whole demonstration about like cyber safety for teens, and they were like, oh yeah, like make sure your location settings are off on your phone, otherwise like, you know, people can like stalk you basically. And I was like, oh, let me turn my location settings off. And then when I go home, I tell my mom about it, and I was like, oh yeah, like they suggested we do this, so like you might not have my location anymore. And then she's like, you're lying, you skipped class to go do something bad, blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's literally not the truth. I was in this assembly, like whatever. But then like when she would gaslight me, I would get angry and my chest would get red and splotchy like this, and then she would think that that would happen to me when I was lying, and then she would gaslight me even more. My childhood was a saw trap, okay? It was psychological warfare. Like now that I live with my parents as like a conscious, this is the most conscious I've ever been living with my parents. I moved out when I was 17 and I've come back probably like 2 or 3 times over the years, you know? I just kind of like bounce around, do whatever. And this is the most conscious and the most mentally stable and the healthiest I have ever been, and I can clearly see why I was the way I was when I was younger, you know? And I feel like all of this had to be shown to me. But and another thing too, like this is just like an example of how stressed out I was as a child. So I went to Catholic school until about like a quarter of the way through grade 7. Then I was like, I've had enough of this, I need to change. So I switched schools to public school. And it was like one of the first times I had gym class, and we were like walking to, and this was like dead ass middle of winter, and we're like walking to like a hockey rink, and we were supposed to bring like ringette sticks or whatever with us, and I totally forgot to grab one because I was just like a fucking space case. And so I tell my teacher, I was like, oh my god, I forgot to grab one, like can I run back to the school and like get it? And she's like, yeah, okay. So I run back to the school and I get my stick, and then but I'm like, the school's in a totally different area of town that I had never fucking been to before. I was like, I don't know where anything is, so I'm literally like lost, wandering around trying to find where anyone went. And then I'm stressed out because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get marked absent and my mom is going to kill me. My mom is going to kill me. So then I go to the guidance counselor and I'm literally like crying my eyes out, being like, I got lost, I'm so sorry this happened, because I just felt like I was gonna get in so much trouble when I got home. Like the amount of anxiety and stress that I carried as a child, I was always top of my class, like, and that's not even bragging, like I just was a very smart kid. Even if you put me in a classroom now, I'd be at the top of it. It's just how it is. And so we had this program at my elementary school called like AR, like accelerated reading. And so at the start of every year or every so often, you would take like a test to assess your reading level, and then based on your reading level you had to read like a list of books, and then once you finished, you know, like enough books from that thing, you were bumped up a level. I was the first person in the history of my school to ever finish the entire program. A girl like me loved to read, and I used to love to read fiction, but like I can't really do fiction anymore. But so if I got like a 70, like the few occasions when I got like a 70 on an AR test, bro, I would be a nervous wreck for the whole entire day, like scared to go home and tell my parents. And not because like they never hit me or anything, but just like, oh my God, sorry. That was so gross. They were just so hard on me all the time about everything. Oh, and I was so okay. My mom is like, one thing that's been really big for her in this life, and this used to be a big thing for me too, is like her relationship with her body. And that's because I don't think anyone ever taught her how to have a healthy relationship with her body, and like binge eating is like a coping mechanism for her, and that used to be a coping mechanism for me too. Like I've lost, I feel like the heaviest I've ever been in my life was maybe like 215 pounds. Mind you, I'm like 5'9", so like that spreads out. Like I was never like obese, I was just like thick. You know what I mean? And now I don't weigh myself, but I would say if I had to guess, I'd guess I'm like about 185 pounds, maybe 190. I'm gonna say 185. But anyways, I did get down to like 165 like a year ago when I was like going through some shit, or maybe like 168 or something, and that was the smallest I'd been since grade 8. But none of these numbers matter. I don't even know why I'm saying it. But anyways, so yeah, my mom has just like not had a great relationship with her body, right? And the girl loves sugar. Like she loves her Coca-Cola, girl loves it. And like for months, like I moved back to my parents' house in like June of last year, and like for months she just kept commenting like everything I eat tastes bitter. And like I am a psychic intuitive, so like people can like, you know, if they talk to me about their problems, like I'm given a solution. And so it was shown to me, it was like diabetes. And so I like just intuitively, that's what I felt. And then so I did some research, and that was validated. Like if things are starting to taste bitter to you, whatever, it can be a symptom of diabetes. And so I bring this to her attention. I'm like, hey, just, you know, and actually, like, funnily enough, when I was about like 19 or 20, that's probably when like binge eating was like my biggest coping mechanism. And I thought at a point that I was getting diabetes or something, because like I was straight up addicted to sugar. Like I was like addicted to the feeling that it gave me. Like I used to just be addicted to anything, dude. But yeah, so I've like, you know, turned that around and whatever. And actually now my problem is I don't eat enough. Like right now I'm running on half a London Fog and an orange, and it's almost 5 p.m. So I'm working on that. Admittedly, I'm not great at eating. But anyways, so then I came home the other day, and I'm sitting there, and my mom looks kind of emotional, and I'm like, oh, like, what's up? And she's like, this is my last Coke, like, I have diabetes. And so my initial reaction, like, as I think, like, as you get older, if you see your parents not taking care of themselves, it can be really frustrating, because like it hurts your heart, because it reminds you of like the limited amount of time you have with them here on this earth, and if they're not taking care of themselves. Like I watched my mom go through losing her dad because he refused to take care of himself. And I don't want her to put me through that, and also I don't want my dad to put me through that. And my dad is just more, my dad is like almost legally blind, and like now he like is fucking like unable to use his one hand like fully. So you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm watching this man get crippled, and he's only like 53. I'm like, fuck. But my mom has just always been more of like a battle with her body. Like I've never seen her like feel really confident in herself. And so it's like that, like I'm a Leo rising, so that was just like built in me, confidence, and I'm so grateful for that, because I've had to like teach it to her. But anyways, so when she told me that, you know, like I was kind of like, part of me, like, you know, like the ego in me wanted to lash out and be like, I told you that was gonna happen. Like it was like, you told me how you were feeling, I told you intuitively like what came to me and what you can do to combat it, but like you didn't do it. So now here you are. And like as far as she's told me, it's not super bad, and like diabetes is reversible. So I told her, I'm like, if you choose to be a conscious creator in your life, like you can turn this around, you know what I mean? But instead of projecting anything about what I was feeling, like my disappointment or like my sadness or like, you know, my empathy, like any well, actually empathy is the route I did choose to go. And I asked her, well, how do you feel about that? And I've really tried to get better about that. Like when people express how they're feeling to me, instead of telling them how I feel about their feelings, I ask them like, okay, well, how do you feel about what you're going through? Because then like I want to have a conversation with you, and like I want to understand your perspective. Like I don't want to just make it all about me. And admittedly, I used to be worse for that. Like I used to think like, oh, my perspective on everything matters the most, but like that's not how you connect with people. And so like her and I did kind of get to have like a conversation about it, whatever. And that was like, I think like a week ago, like last Monday. And so my mom moved away from like, she's from Newfoundland, and both my parents are, and she moved away when she was like 20, like moved across the country with my dad and just like started a life here, and then had me when she was like 24. So our Jupiter returns are lined up. How fun is that? But she, like, her and her mom have a very weird relationship. Like, she is like the second child, and so from what she's told me, it's like her mom would like put her brother in like all kinds of like sports and like activities and stuff, but my mom just like never really felt that. She even heard her mom say once like, oh, like we shouldn't have had like a second kid and all this stuff, you know. And then so that just kind of like eats at you. And it's like she tried so hard to be like a good person, you know what I mean, and like do everything that my grandma wanted her to do, but my grandma just like is not a happy person. Like, even at the time she was married to my grandpa, and like they didn't have like a great like healthy fruitful relationship, whatever, so obviously she wasn't happy. And now she's with a man who's amazing to her, and she's still not happy. You know, it's like anytime you talk to her, she'll still like find the negative in anything, or just like find, she's an Aries and she's a very young soul, but she like, I don't know, she's an interesting person. But I don't like the fact that like her lack of maternal instinct, like her feminine wounds like went into my mom and then went into me. But I'm the generational curse breaker. And so my mom, I think on Friday, I walked in her room and she's like on the phone with my grandma, and it was just kind of like that. Whenever they talk, it's just like small talk, like, oh, like where my grandma lives is maybe like population 2,000, you know, like she's very like small town and whatever. So yeah, it'll just be like talk about like the weather, just like boring, like, or like negative talk about other people. But anyways, my mom just blurts out, she's like, I went to the doctor on Monday and I have diabetes. And my grandma is just like, doesn't ask my mom how she's feeling, just goes off and it's like, oh, I don't think anyone else in the family has that, blah blah blah, like, you know, and just like is not being a solutions oriented person, or like focusing on whatever. And it was just, yeah, like the most awkward conversation. And then, you know, so they spend like maybe 2 minutes talking about that, and then my grandma starts talking about like her problems, and then she goes on and on and on and on and on about those, and my mom is just kind of, you know, like being like, oh yeah, and then as they end, they're just kind of like, okay, I'll talk to you, you know. It's just so awkward, and me and my mom are literally sitting there giggling because we're like, why is this so weird? Like, this is like a mother and a daughter talking, and her and I are like, we're in a much healthier place right now. It's like we can talk about pretty much anything, but I'm like that with anyone. Like, I can really talk to anyone about anything for the most part, as long as they're receptive and open-minded. And you know, that's one thing too, it's like I didn't even realize how unconscious she is, because it's like I can talk to her about all the stuff like I talk to you guys about, like, you know, like raising your vibration and taking care of yourself and taking accountability for your energy, and she'll just look at me, she'll be like, I don't know what you mean when you say vibration. And I'm like, oh girl, like you are so tapped out of the game, like because she is so like locked into the physical. Like that's literally like, she moved here, like I said, when she was 20, and then she started working like part-time at 7-Eleven, and then she just like worked her way up there, and by the time I think I was like 16, she was like a field consultant, like overseeing like 7 or 8 stores and making like 6 figures a year. So like she played the game of life that way, you know what I mean? Whereas like I'm playing the game of life more so like the spiritual way. Like like I don't own property. Like I'm 25 years old. I don't really expect myself to own property, especially not in this economy. But like I have a degree. I almost finished journalism school, but I dropped out. But I have like 6 years probably in the field of journalism, and now I'm like an editor. I manage like 8 people. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I got my fashion marketing diploma. I was working on getting my website back up, and I was looking at that, and it's like I have a really impressive portfolio. Like I've published like tens of thousands of things, like, and outside of my own writing, like now I'm publishing like hundreds of things for other people. So I'm just like a content creation machine. And like for a while, like for years, a lot of what I was writing was just like, it felt like invaluable. Like, you know, it was just like, this bitch is twerking, let's talk about it. People are just watching me. But now I'm actually kind of writing about like interesting things, and like I have 5 different platforms to like, okay, so the first writing job I ever got, I could only really write about like Canadian celebrities, so it was just like very like limiting. But now it's like I have 5 different brands, and I'm given so much creative freedom, and yeah, so I really like where I'm at, and I feel like I have healed a lot of feminine energy on both sides of my family line, and I'm helping my parents heal their inner feminine energy too. And my dad has actually been like really receptive to this. Like every so often he'll come in my room, and I'll just have like a tarot deck like sitting on like my nightstand or whatever, and I'll tell him to just like pull a card, and then we'll talk about what it means, and we'll see, you know, like how it relates to what we're going through. Or oftentimes like after we pull it, I'll kind of like notice it in the energy and stuff. But yeah, he and I have done a lot of healing in the past few months, and I feel like that's kind of why like I was shown my future, right? Like a few months ago, I was shown exactly like what what is coming and how it's gonna feel and like, well, all of that, right? And I was able to get really excited about it. And then from an ego perspective, it was like pulled away from me. And now, so I'm sitting here like how I was talking about Uncut Gems when Kevin Garnett says like, why the fuck did you show it to me if I can't have it? Because it's like, okay, now I have to stay vibrationally aligned with that thing, with that timeline that I'm moving into. And now I'm being granted this opportunity to like heal these relationships. Like I was saying, like me and my dad were in a very bad place a few months ago. And that is because he has gone through a lot in the past few years, and like he just didn't know how to channel any of it or like work through any of it. So he, yeah, we've been working together on a few things, and my mom is, I'm just trying to get her to be more like receptive and open to life in the same way I'm like trying to get everyone else to be more open and receptive to life and like to take care of themselves. And even I'm not perfect at that. Like I said, like I need to get better at eating. Like some weeks I'm in the gym like 3 or 4 times or working out like every fucking day, and then other weeks I'm just like not. Like, you know, it's just like being a human is hard, but if you are conscious in the process, it becomes easier. And there are like generational curses that are working against you, and becoming conscious like helps you realize those things so that you can break them. Like I had to, I mean, I had a lot of, if you want to call it fun, I guess, like getting blackout drunk and like giving my energy away to people that didn't matter. Like I did that shit for a few years when I was like 16 to 20, you know what I mean? Like I fucked around and found out. And then from like 21 on, like I feel like I do have like a bit of FOMO, because I'm like, okay, the way I live is not like how a normal 25-year-old lives. Like I'm way too fucking isolated. But if I lean into the FOMO, then it's like, then I can't be consciously creating in the present and like being here for the people that need me, which like right now is like my parents or whoever I happen to encounter on a daily basis. Like I just try to like seed good energy wherever I go, but I also keep it real. You know what I mean? Like I hold people accountable, and that makes some people run away. But if they can't handle the truth, life will show it to them in another way. So it's not your job to force anything. Just like be present and keep responding to what is. And yeah, that's my yap for you today. Maybe this will be my Aquarius Mercury video, because I am an Aquarius Mercury and this is just me speaking my truth, and I think that would make sense. And there's a new moon, so maybe we'll pull tarot cards for that, because then I don't have to make 2 videos and I can just go home and do my nails and do more work like a good girl boss. I'm trying to have fun. Actually, I am having fun with work. Like, yeah, sure, it stresses me out, but like I'm really glad I have this project to work on to keep me occupied, because otherwise I would just be doing bad, stupid shit. So find yourself a little project and get to work. That's your mission this Aquarius Mercury season. Love ya.